Good morning. How are you? Happy Monday. I've had a very busy few days. There's a reason why I didn't stream last week, because I've been sort of more in research and writing mode. I took Friday to write something. I did write a bit of a humorous article because the unflushable turd is back, but I think that I kind of stumbled on a thing that's caused a bit of an identity quake of sorts. And I think that I'm coming to some conclusions that, whilst writing the book and trying to plan content and trying to sort of make sense of all of this stuff, I've never gone ahead. I've kept lots of notes. I've got thousands and thousands of notes, like from over the years, trying to make sense of and describe this phenomenon, what we call the woke cult, right? Up until it's consensus that it's a sort of a cult, but I'm going to have to start admitting that I think I was headed down the wrong path, in the sense that that's true, right? But anyway, let's start again. So, hello, welcome, all that sort of stuff. I've been doing a lot of research, right, for my book, trying to diagnose some stuff. And I sat down to write a chapter for my book on Friday, and I started to get into that state of overwhelm, right? My stutter's a little bit bad today because my brain's working at 1,000,000 miles a minute, so be patient with me. So basically thousands of notes. I had a sort of an idea where I want to go with the book, but it's just not coming out. And because I know that something in my gut is incorrect, and that I have to, there's something where I feel like I have to diagnose the bigger picture, right? I had to diagnose the bigger picture and get the bird's eye view of this before I could write a chapter. Like even just a paragraph. That's one thing about me, is that whenever there's a block, whenever there's a creative block, whenever I have writer's block, it's not because I am not motivated. It's not because I'm not. It means that I'm on there's something in my gut that is holding me back. Right. So when I don't talk about something, or I hesitate, or I'm unhappy with like a client relationship, or I'm unhappy in some area, or anything that's holding me back, I listen. I know that that's the case. There's something that I'm not listening to now. So what I did, confused with all my notes. Okay. What I thought I would do is build a crazy board. Otherwise known as a mind map. But my mind map, I sort of start because, okay, context. Fucking hell, Taya. All right. A lot of people are coming to me going, so what's this shit with J.K. Rowling? Okay. A lot of people are going, and that, you know how a lot of us, when we're asked that, we go, oh God, where do I begin? And that's the thing that I was going to start mapping out, which is, where do I fucking begin? And that has always been the question. Where are we? Why is it happening? How is it happening? You know, who's it affecting? All of those sort of things. And I've just, all of these scattered notes, thousands and like years of work, right? So I went, fuck it, I can't write. People are asking me simple questions. I can't answer them without this crazy fucking, thing. So what I will do is I will start to mind map this out. So I'm going to show you sort of where I started. And what I thought I would do is I started mind mapping through time to try and, first of all, get a sense of the timeline of events, and also how the connections are with the various tribes online, how they interact, why, try to explain a little bit why, certain relationships have formed and that sort of stuff, right? Because ultimately that's what I'm trying to sort of write about, which is how we got here, all right? Now, but something's always niggled me. I've said it, like how many times, if you've watched a lot of my streams, you know that I've touched on this quite a few times, right? Where I have said, if I could design the perfect movement to destroy the left, I would design Wokism. And by definition, I don't believe that it is left wing. And I've said this a few times, and that's been my gut. It's been my gut the whole time, right? And something just landed like in my research. I think I thought I'd read who funded Foucault was the thing that I searched. And that was and I just went, fuck, okay, good. I also saw a little bit of stuff about the Democratic campaign, the way that they're gaslighting everybody. And a lot of these things, right, these ideologies, a lot of them work, the way that persuasion works, especially propaganda, right, is that you need to buy into an initial premise, right, that is true. And once you buy that truth, okay, and you can be sort of taken into the ladder of engagement, which we've talked about before, right? I know I'm waffling a bit, but there's a lot of fucking thoughts and a lot of stuff that's emerging. This is not going to be a coherent stream, I'm afraid, but I'm going to try. I'm going to start deep diving into a lot of this stuff as long as I can maintain my social media accounts, but we'll see how we go. What you need to do is buy an initial premise, like trans women are women. When you buy that premise, right? But if you it all makes sense, okay? But if you reject that premise, the argument, everything becomes clear and it falls apart. I've talked about the magic eye painting before, right? It's like that. There's all this sort of mess of things, but you don't. When you see the magic eye painting, you can't not see it, right? The same thing, I think, is happening with the workers' parties in the West. So in this case, let's talk about the Democrats. The premise that the Democrats sell you on is that they are the party of the worker and that they are the party of the left. That's a premise, right, that used to be true, is sort of given as, is basically, taken as truth. Like the Americans fucking have no idea what left wing even is, right? But if you turn around and say, okay, let's just test this by saying the opposite. The Democrats are a right-wing party, okay, which technically they're true, right? Yeah, there's a Mallrats reference. I know I love you lot. It's not a sailboat, it's a schooner. I love that. I'm definitely Ethan Suplee with those things. But once you do see it, there's a whole bunch of fucking woke people seeing it, like woke celebrities, right? There are those people who look at the painting and just see the painting. But then there's a whole bunch of people who see it for what it is, who see the outlines, right? Some of us are slower. Some of us just see a little off sort of shadow or something like that. So anyway, to use another metaphor, I feel like what I've been doing for the last few years is fucking around with a Rubik's Cube. Pointlessly. I'm no good at those things. I don't have that kind of memory, like kind of brain. But I feel like I've been pointlessly like fucking around with the Rubik's Cube and it's never being solved. So what I decided to do was pull off all the stickers, right? And rearrange them in a way that makes sense. And now I think I understand. Anyway, so I'm going to show you my crazy board because it just shows you kind of the process that I've gone through. But one, like, this is the thing about sort of propaganda, persuasion, this ladder of engagement stuff and the premise. I've had a lot of tears this weekend because it's actually been a lot of stuff where it's like, there's stuff I already knew, but I feel like I've maybe been propagandized a bit too, right? But this stuff hurts to hear. So I apologize if you're still sort of feeling like you've got allegiance to the Democratic Party and hate Trump and think that you're buying into a narrative that I don't think is necessarily correct. Okay. Now, that's really unfortunate. I don't want to say it, but I'm saying it in a neutral way. This is why I've decided to just be completely independent, resign from all political parties in the future, so I can just analyze rather than be independent. But anyway, so wandering off. I got me distracted with the fucking Mallrats reference. Okay, sorry about that. So, the premise. Let's just challenge the premise. Let's do a little intellectual exercise. If the Democrats were a right-wing party, right, that they supported laissez-faire capitalism, right? They supported laissez-faire capitalism. They only supported the rich, right? They owned all of the media and corporate stuff, controlled the universities, controlled all of the messaging around it, engaged in manipulation tactics and strategies that undermine its critics, right? Let's just say that that's the case, right? They're not, I'm just saying, right? Again, people, once you reject the premise that the Democrats are left-wing, a lot of this stuff starts to make sense because they're not. Okay. I mean, I learned this in like year one politics, right? Which is that, both Americans don't know what true left-wing stuff is, right? Now, I'm going to get to my point, but first I'll show you my crazy board because it's funny. Because this is a weird process. I've gone through a crazy fucking process in the last three or 4 days trying to, and all I did, right? We will get to this. We'll get to that, bloody skies. So, yes, absolutely. And it's not even about an awful candidate. It's more about ideologically where they fit, and it will explain why they're not standing up to the protesters. It'll explain why they're not, all of these sorts of things, right? Okay, so I know there's people going to be on my stream, like trying to like derail the conversation into like the point scoring stuff. Let's look at the bigger picture beyond the party politics, beyond the blame. Let's look at the fact we need to look at the United States foreign policy overall, the United States culture overall, right? The culture of laissez-faire capitalism, all of those things. This is higher than fucking any party politics. So that's what I'm saying. Talking about the Biden versus Trump or any other leader, it may as well be Obama versus McCain. It may as well be Bush versus fucking Clinton. It's no fucking difference. They're all neolibs. Okay, that's what you need to think about. None of them are fucking socialists. All right? There's no such thing as a fucking socialist in the United States mainstream political system. So, now, I started here because I've had this thing, right, where people ask me, so what's going on with J.K. Rowling? Simple question, isn't it? Now, so I thought, I've got all this stuff. How do I fucking answer this stuff? This is an incomplete crazy board. It's literally named crazy board. I don't know if you can see at the top, but I've actually called this. This is my master document crazy board where I try to just break down some of these things. This is not a diagram. This is not a presentation. This is not finished work. I don't want feedback. I don't want corrections. This is my mind map for my notes. Okay. So please don't correct it. It's just a way to organize my thoughts. I'm just showing you where I went. So there's stuff missing. I haven't finished. Bros. Okay. Now, so what I thought is, let's go back to what the issues are, right? A little bit of the history, because this is, content planning basically, right? But, what happened, where the splits are, women's studies versus gender studies, the intersection, the misunderstanding around these things, right? What's happened here with these, I'm just building these sorts of ideas, right? What the actual issues are, right? Different issues here, right? It's very complex. What happened here? Marx v. Pomo, like how these things are all related, right? This is more my wheelhouse, which is the digital side of things. And, I sort of started building this out, right? But that's not the point. The point here, hang on, let me just switch my, all right, is I'd forgotten about this thing. And I remember, I vaguely remember this like article, but, like we all see things and we're all nat-brained and stuff. But what you need to know is the history with like people calling this shit cultural Marxism, calling it Marxism. You're buying into the bullshit narrative, the bullshit fucking, disinformation and propaganda, again, anti-Marxist propaganda from your government. Postmodernism in its own right, okay, you got to look at, okay, let me start again. Let me start my thoughts. Okay, again, this is all new, so this is all just new stuff. But this is a vital piece of information, which is that in the 80s, in France, so you got to think about your French history, French political history, and the role that intellectuals play in France, and the role that Marxist intellectuals particularly played in France up until sort of the 80s, right? Now, this was in the shadow of Stalinist Russia. And again, guys, shut the fuck up. There's different variants of Marx. Please just shut the fuck up. Okay. Just shut up. Now, but what happened was that Marxist inquiry and Marxist analysis was dominant in France, right? Okay. Yes, we know Jordan Peterson coined the term cultural Marxism. I'm actually just going to hide the chat boxes. Okay. All right. So, because I'm finding it irritating because this is like low-level fucking American. America, shut up. You're brainwashed. Just shut up and listen. Okay. Fuck. Oh, okay. I'm turning the chats off. So, now, what you need to do, is, here's the smoking gun. You're all being fuckwits. I knew this would happen. This is what I said last night. I'm going to start doing content that's going to make you all annoyed. But fuck it. This is called history, and it's called the different perspective, right? Which is that postmodernism was funded, supported, encouraged to completely dismantle Marxist inquiry in France, in which it was dominant because they were critiquing US US imperialism. Okay? That's the point that I was trying to make. So by calling it cultural Marxism is a lie that you have bought, okay? It is not even related to Marx. It was designed to destroy Marx, okay? So that's why I keep saying shut the fuck up, because I'm trying to tell you something and you might learn if you shut up for a minute. Okay, so I say this with love, but shut the fuck up. So this is an interesting thing, right? These are long. I'll link to them. Again, I knew this happened. I knew the history, because again, I'm a political scientist. I know roughly the history, right? They really don't. Sorry, I'm going to put this. They really don't know how to shut up. They think and this is the problem. They think they know everything. They think that they're just so riddled with their own bullshit propaganda and culture wars. They can't just shut up and listen to an Aussie who actually knows a thing or two. Okay. And also you need to understand what happened in the 80s in France, right? Which is that this Pomo stuff, Foucault and the other postmodern granddaddies, right, were literally funded by the Americans, right, and American universities to create this fucking movement to like destroy Marxism. And the reason why the CIA were interested in it is because obviously in the shadow of the failed Marxist state, Stalinist state, and we've talked about that before. I'm not going into that. Shut the fuck up. It's a version of Marxism. It doesn't mean that the inquiry isn't valid. Okay. What this was that in the baggage associated with Stalinism allowed them to like have a sort of a scapegoat for everything, and all part of anti-communist shit, right? So don't call them communists. They're not communist. They're anti-communist. Okay. Pomos are anti-communist. Okay. Anyway, this is why Wokism is not left-wing. Again, this is preliminary thoughts. This is just fucking whatever. I'm just showing you because it's interesting. I'm still developing actual arguments and work around this. Okay? Now, so you're free to chat amongst yourselves, but you may notice I've taken it off the stream. So, let's have a look here. Where are we? I will link to these, right? But more specifically, the undercover cultural warriors applaud what they see as a double movement that has contributed to the intelligentsia shifting its critical focus away from the US and towards the USSR. On the left, there was a gradual intellectual disaffection with Stalinism and Marxism, a progressive withdrawal of radical intellectuals from public debate, and a theoretical move away from socialism and the Socialist Party. Now, this also applies to feminism in a very similar way. So postmodernism has imploded radical feminism because, obviously, if you understand the idea of capitalism and patriarchy and those things working hand in hand together, you'd understand why radical feminism would suffer the same fate, right? So further to the right, and also most, Marxist feminist analysis, particularly radical feminist, is very much linked to Marxism. So true Marxist analysis, not your fucking American rebanded, McDonaldized fucking French fries served with fries on the side fucking bullshit, like self-help bullshit Marx, okay? Real Marxist analysis, all right? So they're not Marxists. So further to the right, the ideological opportunists referred to the new philosophers, and the new right intellectuals launched a high-profile media smear campaign against Marxism and promoted postmodernism. Postmodernism is like left light, okay? Rebadged new Coke, right? In contrast, the anti-Soviet and anti-Marxist atmosphere of the emerging neoliberal era diverted public scrutiny and provided excellent cover for the CIA's dirty wars by making it very difficult for anyone to mobilize significant opposition among intellectual elites to US policies in Central America, for example. Greg Gandon, one of the leading historians of Latin America, perfectly summarized this situation in The Last Colonial Massacre. Aside from making visibly disastrous and deadly interventions in Guatemala in 1954, the Dominican Republic in 1965, Chile in 1973, and El Salvador and Nicaragua during the 1980s, the United States has lent quiet and steady financial, material, and moral support for murderous counterinsurgent terror states. But the enormity of Stalin's crimes ensures that such sordid histories, no matter how compelling, thorough, or damning, do not disturb the foundation of a worldview committed to the exemplary role of the United States in defending what we now know as democracy. Okay, you don't live in a democracy, mate. Okay. Anyway, you can read this stuff. It's quite long. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's important, right? That's what I thought. So actually, this is a very good point. All right. All right, I'm putting the chat back on now that you can behave, but you let me get my point out. So I thought cultural Marxism was a joke when I first heard it a few years, like Marxists hate focusing on cultural stuff. I get more that they're saying. I get more now what they're saying now, but it's stupid. It is stupid and it's inaccurate. And that's why I keep saying, take Marx's name off of this, right? These are neoliberals, right, who have made a nice little fucking safe package of philosophy that doesn't, so you know that thing where everyone goes, oh, but they don't like do any class analysis, they don't do any of that, oh my god, it like serves only the elites and blue checks and only the blue check journalists and celebrities and fucking world leaders, like they don't do any class analysis. This is why it was on purpose. it's anyway, so that's just really interesting. So what you need to look at is the behavior of the United States, right? And securitization is an interesting one to look at. There's lots of different frameworks. This is, again, this is incredibly complex shit, okay? You're not going to get answers from me. This is just my stream where I share my thoughts. I don't know, like, what kind of material. It's hard not to go, I just want to make people laugh. But this one is just more where you start to see what's going on, right? The one-party system that is corporate United States, okay? There is no election. You have no democracy. There's no rights. Let's go back to Carlin. I'm putting the chat on because you behaved yourselves. Okay? The USA has male socialization. But that's the thing, right? Critical theory is neoliberal by design. They're not communists, right? And if anything, and I actually sat there and I realized that I've been picking on the wrong people. That was the thing where I was like, fuck, I've actually been picking on the wrong people, which is, you know how you sit there and you go, this is so evil, because what it has done is that it's made it look like they're revolutionaries, all right? And they're not. The reason that they're out on the streets, right? We've talked about the activists, the organizers' handbook, right, and those sorts of things. Those things are designed to get them on the streets, mobilize people into action that doesn't do anything. Okay. The reason why the Democrats aren't calling off this shit is because you see them. They're pinning it all on Trump, right? Thankfully, they've underestimated the working class. Okay. And that's the thing that I feel like quite heartened by, which is that your average worker, your average person who's not elite sees through this, right? So what this woke movement is ultimately fucking contempt for the working class. It's elites' contempt for the working class, creating a pseudo-ideology that pretends to be left-wing. It is not left-wing. But what they've done is that they've actually underestimated the intelligence, ability, and capabilities of the working class to fucking defend themselves. And ironically, that's why they're voting, quite ironically, that's why they're voting for Trump. Okay. Anyway, so because he at least says, I'm one of them, I'm a rich cunt, I'm going to do what I want. Now, the other thing you need to look at is the securitization of China, the bullshit around Venezuela. This is the US MO, okay, which is to fucking lie through their teeth, demonize the enemy, throw fucking cash at it, and when the cash doesn't work, right, use sanctions or bombs to get them to fucking do what they want, right? It's no coincidence, right? So anyway, yeah, so this is why Trump is rapidly climbing up in the polls, because ironically, again, it's back to what I was saying about accepting a premise. You need to reject the premise that the Democrats are a working class party. They are not. They are a neoliberal right-wing party. Woke is right-wing. That's why they prop them up. That's why the media is fucking batshit over it. And that's why, you know, they support it. And that's why it's not going to end until its critics actually embrace Marxist analysis. Marx will actually solve a lot of these problems. So you're seeing people on the street because their fucking material well-being, their material livelihood is under threat, and they are fucking on the streets, and so they fucking should be. Okay, now nobody's stopping them because the Democrat, you know, like, well, when I say nobody, Trump's trying, but the Democrats, I don't get into this shit, but the reason why Democrat people are not, you know, calling them off is because they don't want to alienate the wokes. They're a voting bloc that they can't afford to lose. Okay, they're cynical. Second the election's over, everything will settle down, right? Or they'll just fucking demonize Trump. They don't want, see, the Democrats also don't, you know, like they want some stability, but they also want the power. The Democrats have a vested interest in instability as well, especially in small business being shut down, and small businesses. They don't give a fuck about small business. Okay. It's not a, you know, like Amazon is now a major fucking like military contractor, vendor. They don't give a fuck about us. They don't give a fuck about like small guys, right? It's just a consolidation of power for the rich, right? So don't worry about that. It's just fine. That's the thing. My whole crazy board just ended up being boring old US fucking hegemony bullshit as usual. Now I'm bored with it because it's like, oh, it's the same old shit, the same old fuckery. And the tech companies are the same. They've got the same investors, the same fucking people, same fucking, like, you know, security and intelligence people working in their fucking headquarters. Who gives a fuck? Same shit, different decade on steroids. So, but also while you guys are sitting around blaming Marxism, the irony is that it's actually the thing that's going to solve the problem. So anyway, that's a little bit of, anyway, it's just a dumb little bit of history, but yeah. Okay, it's not Marxism. It's not even left. Stop calling them the far left. They're not the far left, okay? You don't know what you're talking about if you call them that. Now, it's not even, okay, so yes, it's not even about the actual differences. It's not, see, that's the thing, is that people still think, it's not, you've got to reframe the way that you look at things. Again, this is what I was saying about my instincts. It's like sometimes it's just like the magic eye painting. It's the angle or the way that you look at a whole bunch of information. And what you need to look at is what is true. Where are the patterns? Where's the data? Where's the history? Where are the documents? Where's this, you know, or where's the proof? It's not, it's not even going into a theoretical like debate about the differences between like Foucault and Marx. It's about how it was used. right? About the fact that this literally the CIA had a document, right? And it was a part of their strategy to implode Marxist thought and kick it into the sun. And isn't that funny that that's something that I said, right? I've said this repeatedly for the last year, and I didn't realize that it was actually true because I'd, for some reason, completely forgotten about this thing. That, you know, if I could design something that would divide the left forever and split everyone, I would design this movement. So there you go. It's a right-wing movement. Welcome. Anyway, Marxist analysis, American culture wars, dumb fucking Americans who don't know what Marxism is and have just all propagandized and brain rotted beyond repair because they think that postmodernism is left-wing because Harvard said so. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Maybe read a couple of books on Marx. There's some great ones, right? They're very easy reads. You don't have to go to the source material. Helen Razer wrote a really great one. It's entertaining and compelling and funny. You know, anyway. But, you know, you can turn around and say, well, Stalin failed. Yeah, well, so it's fucking, like I said, so Sweden hasn't. Australia hasn't. France hasn't. They haven't failed. They're not failed states. They're all Marxist. France was Marxist, example of successful Marxism, but they saw it as a threat to US interests. So let's implode it, eh? Turn them onto USSR. Now they're doing the same thing with China. I'm not sure that I buy all this fucking stuff about China. It just seems like they're doing the same old destabilizing, fucking demonizing bullshit that they've always done. But that remains to be seen. Anyway, I'm still reading. Yeah. So Rob, I recommend reading the original as well. But read all of the body of work and also take the Communist Manifesto. Again, like, if you have to operate in good faith with this shit, or I'm just going to not fucking engage, because you're being willfully obtuse if you don't acknowledge that there is split and debate within the Marxist school as well. Like, there's libertarian Marxism, right, is a legitimate body of thought, okay? And they opposed the authoritarian aspects of Marxist ideology or the application of that. Okay, it was all theoretical, and there's a whole fucking body of thought. So as usual, the answer is educate yourself properly, not into fucking POMO bullshit, but actually understand that there are schools of thought and that libertarian Marxism is real and it exists, and there's a whole bunch of fucking stuff there. So saying, call me Stalin, you sound like an idiot. I don't care how many degrees you've got. So I'm going to go. I'm not going to listen to Americans on politics anymore because they're fucking, look at their brains are rotted. Okay, they don't even know. Yes, I know that Sweden is a social democracy. I'm being simplistic, for fuck's sake. They still incorporate Marxist analysis and Marxist ideas in social democracy. Philosophy builds on things. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, I'm going to go. I love you. All right. Thank you for your precious 5 seconds. I'm done with fuckwits. I'm just going to start turning off comments. And this is what I said last night. Can I just start over? Because these culture war fucks are annoying and stupid and can't even define what Marxism is. So I'm going to go. I love you. This was food for thought. It's not a fucking, this is not a political speech. You're not my constituents. Okay. I don't owe you shit. All right. I'm just having thoughts. Watch, don't watch, share, don't share, subscribe, don't subscribe, like, dislike, don't give a fuck, okay? I'm trying to get to the truth, and I'm trying to tell you the truth so that maybe you might start to think a bit harder. I love you. Joseph, don't fucking tell me to relax. Thank you for your precious 5 seconds. Goodbye. Talk tomorrow. It's all in fun and love. Give me money after I roast you. Bye.